Wow. I have to be honest, I genuinely didn't expect to ever hear the words, "Prison Break is coming back again." It was one of those shows that had its moment, made its mark, and then rode off into the sunset. Or so we thought. So, imagine what it must have felt like for the cast, especially Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell, to pick up the phone and hear something like, "Hey, guess what? We're doing it again. Get ready." That's not your typical Tuesday. That's the kind of call that drops your jaw, gets your heart racing, and brings 1,000 memories flooding back all at once. It's excitement, sure, but also a heavy responsibility. Because let's face it, when you're bringing back something as iconic and emotionally layered, you're not just old friends. You're a story that meant something to millions of people. There's a there, one that can't be taken lightly. And if you're going to pick up the thread again, years later, you'd better have something real to say. Something that honors what came before, while making it worth the audience's time to return. You've got to do justice to the original without feeling like you're just recycling old tricks. Naturally, with the revival confirmed, fans are already asking the big questions. One that's come up repeatedly is about the love story. Are we going to see more of that emotional connection in this new chapter? Is that relationship finally getting some closure, or maybe even a new beginning? Well, here's the thing. The last time we saw our hero, he was, quite literally, dead. Which, as you can imagine, complicates any romantic subplot just a bit. That little detail tends to put the brakes on date night, right? But the situation was even messier than that. Sure, on paper, the characters were married. But there was also that lingering presence of another love interest. You remember her, right? The exotic dancer girlfriend? The whole situation was a tangle of emotions, circumstances, and unanswered questions. And honestly, nobody's really clear on how that all played out legally. Was there a divorce? Did someone just move on and pretend the past didn't exist? It's all a bit of a blur. The bigger point is this. It's been 7 years. 7 long, transformative, painful since these characters last in the same space. That's a time skip. It's a seismic shift. In that kind of stretch, lives change in ways we can't even imagine. People go through loss, trauma, healing, and sometimes they build entirely new identities. It's not like one person just comes back from the dead and everything picks up like nothing happened. There's distance now. Emotional scars. Maybe even resentment. So when these two come face to face again, it's not just a reunion, it's a reckoning. But even with all that emotional debris between them, there's one undeniable link that keeps them tied together forever. Their son. A child changes everything. No matter how far apart two people drift, the bond of co-parenting, or even just shared parenthood, roots them in each other's lives in ways they can't undo. That child becomes the compass, the reason, the emotional center of their connection. So even if they can't be who they once were to each other, they'll always be part of the same story now, because of him. And that's where this revival starts to show its true depth. Yes, it's going to be thrilling. Yes, there will be suspense and action and all the high-stakes intensity fans crave. But underneath that is a very raw, very human story. One about love, grief, responsibility, and trying to find your footing in a world that's moved on without you. Now, what makes this return even more interesting is the format. This isn't just season whatever of Prison Break. Feel. We're talking 9 tightly crafted episodes, each one carrying emotional weight while also pushing the larger narrative forward. It's not just more of the same. It's something bold, intimate, and elevated. And honestly, just watching the teaser trailer, those few carefully cut clips, was enough to stir something in longtime fans and cast alike. Seeing those familiar faces again, stepping back into the world they once knew so well, was a genuinely emotional moment. For some, it was nostalgic. For others, it was a gut punch. And for everyone involved, it felt like more than just a job. It felt like coming home, with all the complications that entails. Behind the scenes, it really was like a reunion. The energy backstage wasn't just professional, it was personal. Everyone had been through so much in the years since the show ended. And now, suddenly, they're back on set, stepping into these deeply lived-in characters again, sharing scenes and stories that never stopped mattering. So how did it all come together? Was it a surprise revival that came out of nowhere? Not quite. What many fans don't know is that this wasn't just a studio decision. The revival had roots in a conversation between Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell while they were working together again on The Flash. Somewhere between scenes, they started tossing ideas. What if we're not done telling this story? It quickly became a conversation, and that conversation turned into a real pitch. They brought it to Fox, and to everyone's surprise, the network was fully on board. The excitement was real, and the vision was clear enough to greenlight what would eventually become the Prison Break event series. So yes, in a very real way, Wentworth and Dominic helped drive this revival forward, not just as actors, but as storytellers who believed there was still more to say. And that kind of passion, it shows. But the big question remains, why bring back Prison Break at all? Why this show? Why now? The answer lies in what made the original series resonate in the first place. Sure, it had a gripping hook, prison escapes, intricate plots, dangerous alliances. But underneath all the adrenaline and suspense, it told a deeply human story. A story about loyalty, sacrifice, and unconditional love. At the heart of it all was one man's decision to risk everything, even his own life, to save his brother from certain death. That theme, the willingness to give everything for someone you love, is timeless. It hits something primal in all of us. And it's that emotional heartbeat that kept people invested, season after season. It wasn't just about the prison walls or the clever escapes. It was about the people, their pain, their courage. The emotional center of the show. After the big escape. After the world thinks you're gone. After you've lost everything and still have to find a reason to keep going. It's bold. It's risky. But it's also exactly the kind of storytelling that made Prison Break iconic in the first place. And make no mistake, this new chapter isn't going to be subtle. The scale is massive. The production is cinematic. But for all its visual spectacle, the real impact will come from the emotional moments. From the reunions that sting, the truths that come too late, and the connections that just won't die.